All right, there's going to be many parts to this video tutorial, and so you're going to want to make sure you follow along with every single part. Okay, the first thing you're going to do is you're going to go into your Google Drive, Share Drives. Make sure you go to our Delmar Digital Photo Share Drive and click on Resource File for Projects. And then you're going to select Doodle Practice Image folder. You're going to copy that. And then you're going to go into your drive. You can click here, go back into your drive, and go into your digital photo folder that you created at the beginning of the year and paste in that folder. And now you're going to go and you're going to open up an image info. You're going to go back into your drive. And you're going to go into your digital photo folder. And you're going to open up image 1772. Go ahead and open that up. You're going to notice that there's a bunch of resources in here that you're going to be using throughout the various parts of this practice. So go ahead and click on Open. And you're just going to raw process this image. So I want you to go to Light, and I want you to open that up, and we're going to just adjust exposure up maybe to like 0.4D. We'll add a little bit of contrast, maybe 10. Bring up the highlights, or bring up the highlights +1. Let's bring the shadows down so that we hide some of the details. And then let's bring the blacks down so we can hide some of the details as well in the jacket. And bring the whites up just a tad. So we got 40, 10, 1, around -36, +5, -28. Now this may vary slightly on your computer, okay? Then click on Open. And the first thing we're going to do is we're going to duplicate our background. We're going to call it by right-clicking this on the mouse, duplicate layer. We're going to call it Retouch. Okay. And we're going to go to our window, and we're going to open up Navigator. So come down here to Navigator and make sure that Navigator is selected. And we're going to zoom in on her face, and we're going to move this little navigator around. And now we're going to come over here, and we're going to make sure our spot healing brush tool is selected. Okay. Now, if it's not, click over here and right click and just make sure you selected it from these different options here, because not everything is listed in this toolbar here, right? We've got some other options here that you can see that you can select, right? So we want to make sure we're on the spot healing brush tool. We're going to come over here and we're going to make sure the hardness is 0. And we're going to want to use a really tiny brush. So maybe around 36 pixels or something. And we're just going to start to remove some of the acne on the face here. Okay, so I'm just kind of going in. I'm going to zoom in even a little closer so I can really see what I'm doing. I'm going to remove some of this acne here. You may have to go over it more than once to really get it removed. You may have to kind of come in at it from underneath, from on top, from the side. And if we turn off the layers, we can start to see how we're starting to clean this up a little bit. Here and there. All right, so you're just going to keep doing this. And you can see that it really does it really nicely for you. So if we turn it on and off, we can see the huge change here. And I'm just going to bring my navigator up a little bit and go up to the head. There's a little piece of hair here that I'm going to just get rid of the hair. And bring this down a little bit. And then I'm going to get rid of this pattern that's on the string on her jacket there. And I get rid of this zipper. Get rid of that. I'm going to get rid of this pattern over here as well that's on her string on her jacket for her hood. And then this little bit right here by the chair. I'm going to get rid of that. And another part of the chair here. And down here in the left corner, part of her zipper on her jacket as well. Okay, so I'm going to zoom back out again and just look at that. Looks pretty good. Okay, zoom back out. All right, let's go ahead and save this just because it's a good idea to always save your work. Do a file save as. Back in your folder, you're just going to put Doodle Practice. Okay, so make sure it's in your Drive, Digital Photo 1, your Doodle Practice image folder, click on Save, okay? And then after you do this, you're going to move on to the second part, which is the generative fill. Okay, so the next step is called generative fill. So what we're going to do is we're going to come over here to Object Selection Tool. And what we're going to do is we're going to select our person. And it looks like pink outline, and then it puts these marching ants all around our model. And we want to make sure that this is a good selection. So we're going to go to Select Mask. And we're going to make sure that we have View selected with Overlay so we can see the red, okay? And we're going to just look at the edge of this and make sure it's all selected well. And we're going to add a little contrast, smooth it out a little bit. Maybe shift the edges out slightly. And then we're going to make sure that we got all the way around our subject. And we're going to select OK. And if you're not happy with this selection, what you can do is you can click on Q, and you can see how it kind of puts it into this quick selection format again. What you're going to do is you're going to come over to this brush tool, and we're going to zoom in, and we're going to look at maybe a section like right here that I'm not happy about. I don't like the fact that this dips in. So I'm going to go in and make sure I have my white over my black, and I'm just going to fill that in a little bit here. And I'm going to make sure I have a nice hardness on my brush. Okay, so I'm going to fill that in a little bit. And then I'm going to look all around and make sure I like the way it's selected. I'm going to kind of get rid of that and maybe bring this all the way down. And you want to look around the hairline. You want to look around your fingers or hands or any kind of objects and just make sure you have a good selection. Okay. So then we're going to back out. And now what we're going to do is we're going to click the Q again so that we're back in our quick selection with the marching ants. And we are going to go up to select inverse because we want to actually select the background. And then we're going to go in, we're going to come over here and you might try, yeah, so you're going to right click in this black area, the background, and you're going to go to Generative Fill. Okay. And what we're going to put in is Aztec. We're going to put in many Aztec flowers all around the background. And we're going to see if we can generate some flowers in the background. Now, you're probably going to need to generate this multiple times to get something that you want to use because we want to completely fill in the background, okay? And it should look something like this sample that I'm going to show you in a minute here. Okay, that's starting to do it, but we're going to look at our sample here. Okay, so look at this sample that I did. Now, I did add a black and white layer, so I'm going to turn that off, and I did reduce the opacity. So let's put it to 100%. So this is what it looks like when I originally generated it. Okay, so this is kind of what we're looking for. This is what we want to go for. Okay, everybody's going to generate something different. That's what's really cool about this practice project, that everyone will definitely generate something different. Now, all this white is not working. That will definitely not work for what we're doing. So let's go to another one and let's see. Well, that's putting in some stuff, but it's not really filling in everything. So let's try another one. That one definitely didn't fill in enough. So let's go ahead and let's generate another 3 by clicking on generate, and it'll come up with another 3 possible ideas. And we can even start to narrow this down a little bit more by maybe putting in the type of flower we want them to add to the generative design. So we've got this one here. We've now got that one, that one. So far, I like this one the best of all the flowers. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to Google. I'm going to open up Google. I'm going to do a Google search. Okay, I'm just going to go into Google search. And I'm going to put in images. I'm going to put in Aztec flowers. And let's see what comes up. I'm going to see what are some of the names of these flowers. Let's see here. Marigold. Why don't we put in marigold? Okay, let's put in the word marigold. Marigold flowers all around in the background. Marigold flowers all around in the background. Let's see what we generate from that. What's nice is that even though we've generated these 6 here, we don't lose them. They're still there. They're still an option, but we don't have to go with them. We can keep generating more and more ideas until we're really happy. I don't really like that first idea. Let's see the third one. That one is starting to look a little better. Um, Marigold flowers all around in the background. I'm going to say multiple marigold flowers all around in the background, completely. And let's see what happens now. Let's see if we generate even more ideas here. Okay. And you know what? We can start to change the way these flowers look by putting in another word. Let's put in multiple marigold flowers, multiple doodle, multiple doodle marigold flowers all around in the background. And let's see what we generate. Let's see if we get maybe more of like a drawing rather than a real flower. I don't want a white background. So we're going to have to definitely change this up a bit. So we could say doodle marigold flowers on a black background. And let's see what we generate. You can see how you have to play with the words to really figure out, the kind of image you want to create. Okay, that one's not too bad. So actually, I really like this one. This final one. Look, how many do we have to generate here? We had like quite a few, right? So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a black and white background. And I'm going to kind of play with the adjustments here. Maybe I want to pop those a little bit, the yellow on there, and kind of play with these adjustments, make the background really dark, bring the blues down, bring the cyans down. I want the yellows up and the red down a little bit. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and close that out, and I'm going to adjust the opacity on this down to about 30, maybe like 30%. It's going to be really dark in the background, okay? And so now we are ready to move on to the next step. Okay, so for the next part, you're going to learn how to use Firefly to do text to image images. Basically, you're going to be creating images from text, and then you will generate from the text these images using Firefly. Now, I do have a folder. So if we go to File and we go to Open and we look at our resources, right, for our Doodle practice, I do have a folder called AI Generated Images through Firefly. And you will definitely be using some of these images here. But I would like you to generate at least one of your own original images, okay? So how this is going to work is we're going to come over here to our apps, and we're going to go into Adobe Creative Cloud. We're going to open up the Adobe Creative Cloud. And let's see here. Why isn't Adobe Creative Cloud not opening here? There we go. Okay, and then we're going to just let it think for a minute here, and we're going to go to make sure that you're in all apps, and you're gonna notice that you have this option called Adobe Firefly. We're gonna click on Adobe Firefly. And there we go. Here is Adobe Firefly. And you're going to want to go to text to image. We're going to click on that. Okay, so if we go and look at our folder really quickly. So let's go into our folder and let's look at our AI generated images through Firefly. You're going to see that there are some candles, there's some food, some Day of the Dead skeletons, some like a tabletop, some frames with some skeletons in the frames. And I want you to generate something. We're doing a Day of the Dead themed or a Mexican themed project. Okay. So you will eventually generate some kind of design that will go along with these images that you see here. Okay. So let's go back into our Adobe Firefly and we're going to put in Day of the Dead skeleton. And let's see what we can generate now. It's going to bring up some images. It's going to bring up 4 images based on this prompt, Day of the Dead skeleton. And there we go. There's our skeletons. And then what we want to select is art, which it did. But we want to change the style of this. Okay, so we're going to come over here to techniques. And the technique styles you may want to use are doodle drawing, line drawing. These are really good ones to do. So we're going to select line drawing or doodle drawing. Okay, so let's go ahead and generate this and let's see what comes up. Okay, so there we go. And now that's what it looks like with line drawing. So let's go ahead and get rid of the line drawing and let's try doodle drawing and let's see what happens. Okay, so that works as well. But what I want to put down is Day of the Dead full body skeleton. And let's see if we can generate like the entire body. I haven't tried this one, so we'll see what happens. Okay. We've got 2 so far, and I'm going to use these possibly in our project. Let's do Day of the Dead full body skeleton jumping. And let's see if we can. Also, we want to make sure that we put on a black background because we want everything on a black background. Okay. That one's kind of fun. I'm actually going to save to my favorites this one right here by just hearting that. Okay, I like this one, and I think I might be able to incorporate this in my little practice. Let's see here. Let's generate some more ideas. And I really like this one here. So I'm going to save that to my favorites. So if I go to my view favorites, okay, another way to view your favorites is to go back here and click on let's go back to Adobe Firefly and just click on favorites, and guess what, here are the two favorites I just created. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to download both of them by clicking on the download here. It saves, and here, and it saves. So if I go over here to my downloads, there's the two skeletons, and I'm going to want to move them. So I'm going to select them, I'm going to copy them, I'm going to move them into my drive, and go into my folder and Doodle practice images and put them in my AI generated folder. I'm going to go ahead and paste those in. Okay. So you're going to be basically generating lots of different doodles that you can then add to your project. Okay. Alrighty. So let's come back to Photoshop, and I'm going to show you how to now open those images and start to add them into your practice project. So now that you have saved a couple of new images that you might use for this practice that were generated with Firefly, we're going to go and we're going to start to add these images in. Okay, so one of the criteria that you're going to need to do for this project is we're going to create a Day of the Dead altar kind of in front of the person. So you need to incorporate a tabletop, and then from there you can add anything you want. So like candles, food, jumping skeletons, skull heads, picture frames, anything you see here. Okay. As I go along, you do want to make sure you have quite a few objects on this table. Okay. You can select anything you want from here or anything else that you have generated yourself. Okay. And then also you're going to be adding some other things, but for now, we're just going to go ahead and start with that. So I'm going to start with the table first, because you know why? It's everything has to sit on a table. So let's start with that table first. You have 3 different table options. I'm going to go ahead and go with this one here. I'm just going to go ahead and open that up. You can choose whatever you want. So what I need to do is I need to select just the tabletop. Okay. So to do that, I'm going to go in with my quick selection tool. I'm going to make sure I have the positive selected, and I'm going to go in with a kind of a small brush, and I'm just going to start to move it all around the table so it starts to kind of select this table. All the entire table here until we have marching ants going all around the table. Make sure it's a very small brush. And then I'm going to double check my selection by going to Select Mask. Again, I'm going to make sure that I have it on the red overlay. And as you can see here, there's some parts in the middle of this table that should not have, that need to be gone. I shouldn't see any red in the middle. So I'm going to say cancel. I'm going to go back in, and I'm just going to go all the way around and make sure that I'm getting the entire table top selected. Make sure you don't get down, by using a tiny brush, like I'm using a 30, it makes it so that I don't over select. Now, if you over select, let's say you accidentally went into the legs, that's not a big deal. You can go back to negative, select the negative, and you can get rid of that. You can bring that back up. and just kind of bring it right up to the tabletop edge. And then go back to plus. I'm going to make sure I've got all this. And now I'm going to go to select mask again. And now it looks pretty good, except for a little bit on the edge there and a little bit along the top. So I'm going to go cancel. And I'm going to make my brush even smaller, maybe like 14. And I'm just going to carefully kind of go around the edge here. Oh, carefully along the edge here. And I accidentally got a little bit of that table, so I'm going to minus and actually got some of the legs a little bit there. So now I'm going to go to quick selection, and we're just going to look at that again. That looks pretty good. What I'm going to do is I'm going to come down here, and I'm going to shift out just a little bit. Add a little contrast, a little. It's not really shifting out. I feel like nothing's changing. I'm going to, the radius. Okay, that looks pretty good. I'm going to say okay. And now I'm going to select the quick selection tool. Remember, I kind of talked a little bit about that before. And I'm going to zoom in with my navigator. And I'm going to go in with my brush tool. And I'm just going to go along the edge of this table a little bit and just kind of get all along the edge of that table and fix this up just a little bit. I probably don't need to do all this, but because I'm not going to be putting the entire table in, but I do want to put the top edge in probably. And then I'm just going to go back in with a little bit of red just to kind of fill that in. Make sure you had 100% opacity when you're doing this. I'm going to kind of get some of the red off of the edge of that. Okay. So now I'm going to do Q, and now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to Edit, Copy, or Control C. I'm going to go back over here, and I'm going to do Control V, and I'm going to place it into my project. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure I've got my Move tool selected, Show Transform Control selected. I'm going to bring this down to the bottom. Now, you might want to turn your black and white layer off just so that this is the top layer. Sometimes having like multiple layers above can make it so you can't move stuff around very easily. So I'm going to enlarge the size of that. And that looks pretty good. I don't need to have the whole table in, but I'm going to have most of it. You know, want some table space right here. Perfect. And then go ahead and turn on my black and white layer. That looks pretty good. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is start adding stuff to this table. Okay, so I'm going to close out this image. And the first thing I'm going to add are some candles that are going to go to the left side and maybe over here to the right side. I'm going to put in this kind of tall candle here. I'm going to open that up. Now, this candle needs to be adjusted a little bit. So I'm going to go to Image, Adjustments, Levels, and I'm going to make this a little bit darker so it's nice and black, okay? And I'm going to say okay. Now, I'm just going to do a Select All, Control A, Edit, Copy, Control C, and I'm going to do Edit Paste or Control V, okay? Now, we want to move this around, so we're going to move this over here. And we also want to change the blending mode to lighten, so it's kind of just, but you can see that it's overlapping the table a little bit. That's okay. What we're going to do is add a layer mask to the table layer here, okay? So underneath, and we're gonna add a little layer mask, and then what we're gonna do is we're gonna go in with the brush tool. And I recommend maybe doing like a 50% hardness here, and maybe a little bit bigger brush, like about 70 or something. That would probably be good. And I'm going to zoom in really close on this and bring my navigator over here, because what I want to do is on my table, I want to remove the table. Okay, so I'm going to put black over white, and I'm just going to go underneath on the table, and I'm going to remove the table so that my candle is standing out. And okay, so if we look at our layer mask here, you can see a little black speck. That's because we've removed it. So like if we turn that off, there we go. See how that's underneath there now? And it helps to make that candle stand out. Okay, so that's on the, we'll be doing this a lot to the table layer, okay? Okay, and then I'm also noticing that on the candle layer, there's like this weird line going down the middle there. So I'm going to put a layer mask on that and get rid of that line. And then what's cool is if you want, you could get rid of some of these smoky things if you don't want all of them, like maybe I'll get rid of that one there. Yeah, maybe this one. I don't need all the smoke. So I can add a layer to the actual candle and remove some of the parts of the candle that I don't want. Okay. All right, now let's back out of this and let's see what we got here. Okay, so I'm going to close this out, and I'm going to go ahead and open this candle here. I'm going to say okay, and that looks pretty good. I'm going to go Control A, Control C, Control V. Again, I'm going to change the blending mode to lighten. I'm going to make sure it's right above the second layer, right here on layer 3. And this time I'm going to kind of hold down my control key, not my control key, my shift key, and I'm going to kind of narrow this out a little bit and stretch it down. I'm going to move it over here to the right, and I'm going to make it slightly smaller. And then I'm going to go ahead and set that in, check mark that in. I'm going to zoom in on this. And again, as for now, I'm thinking that I may end up moving this. So I'm not going to do the layer mask yet. Like I'm not going to remove behind the candle quite yet. I'm just going to put my objects in. I'm just going to start putting in my objects first that I want to use. And then I'll go back in and fix that up. So I'm going to put in this food here. Okay. I'm going to do Control A, Control C, Control V. I'm going to put that above here, and I'm going to put that into lighten mode and bring it down. Okay. So maybe I want it like sitting here. This candle, I'm just going to move it over a little bit because I'm going to put a little picture frame in here. Obviously, I don't want this overlapping on the table, so I will fix that eventually. Maybe I'll bring the food down a little bit lower, just to about right there. Okay. And then I'm going to go ahead and open up a picture frame. Which one do I want? I kind of want a picture frame at it, like where the photo is a little bit angled. I'm going to open up this one, and I'm just going to select the picture frame, not these little skeletons or this little face. So I'm going to go in with my quick selection tool and just select the frame as much as possible. The inside, Just keep selecting this, keep selecting all this. Oh, plus. I need to put plus. I need to be selecting this, not doing negative. So plus, selecting. Plus. Keep selecting this. Maybe I'll go with a little bit bigger brush. Okay. Keep selecting this, keep selecting this, keep selecting this. And then go to select mask and we're going to check to see how it looks. Looks like I need to select a little bit more. So I'm going to up here, in the middle here, a little bit more along the edge. You got to move real slow sometimes. And then let's go to select mask and let's check this out. And then I'm going to contrast a little bit, shift the edges maybe. That looks good. I'm going to say okay. And then I'm going to go to edit copy, right? And then I'm going to come back over here and I'm going to do Control V and paste that in. So if it's here, that means I want to move my food like over this way. And then I'm going to make this a little smaller, just like kind of like a little small family photo here, you know, like, but bigger than the candle. So maybe like that size. And then here's my food. And eventually I'm going to add a layer mask to all of these. Now for the picture frame, I just might leave it as normal rather than doing lighten. I don't really think changing the blending mode on that one doesn't really help this image at all. So I'm going to put this there, the food, maybe right about there. And then eventually I'm going to make this candle a little smaller and bring it over just a tad. Eventually we're going to add a layer mask. We're going to go back on the table layer mask and fix everything once we have everything in place, okay? So now I'm going to come back over here. I'm going to add one more object to this. I'm going to come in here and I'm going to add a skeleton. I'm going to add this chrysanthemum's skeleton, maybe this one right here, I think I will add. I'm going to go ahead and open that. I'm going to do Control A, Control C, come back over here, Control V. Oh, I want to make sure it's above. I want to make sure it's on this first, and I'm going to go to lighten, and I'm going to bring it, I'm going to make it really small. It's just going to fit kind of like right here. And right now it's really blending in. If I change that to normal, it'll stand out, but we don't want this black. So, but for right now, I just want to see the placement of this. Maybe I'm going to have it overlapping on the candlestick a little bit, maybe. And I think that looks pretty good. I'm going to change that back to lighten. All right, so now what we're going to do is we're going to start to make sure that these objects are going to stand out, right? So that they're not overlapping each other and getting lost. So let's come down here to the table layer and let's go in with our brush tool and let's start putting in our food, making sure our food stands out, okay? And it's going to come up right here because remember this is on, I'm going to make a little bit bigger brush so that I can actually do this a little quicker. Okay, so there we go. Our food is now standing out, and on our frame picture, which is 5, we're going to put a layer mask on that. And we're going to hide it behind the food a little bit. Okay. And I'm just going to bring that back. I'm going to make my brush a little bit smaller so that I can just bring back that frame a little bit there along the edge of the food. There we go. And then just fix that up just a little bit. So that's done on the actual frame layer, okay? And now I'm going to go back to my table layer mask, and I'm going to fix that candle so that my candle stands out against the table. And then, so we've got that. See how that's working? And then we got that. We got our candle, which this one on the left, I didn't move at all, so that's good. That one looks like I need to do just a little bit more in here because it should be like solid. So let me just get that right there. There we go. So I turn that back in, it's a solid. And then our food, gonna go back on the table, get rid of that line there. That's good. And then our frame is looking good, but our little skeleton guy is totally getting lost. So let's go back on the table and let's bring back our little skeleton, the flowers at least on the bottom here. And then we'll need to do it on our frame layer. So why don't we turn off the frame layer? No, don't turn off the frame. We need to just, why don't we change it so that it's normal? No, not, yeah, that is normal. Let's go to our skeleton. There it is. Okay, we're going to change our blending mode to the skeleton to normal right now, just so that we can see where it is that we need to do the layer, where we need to go back on that frame one, layer mask for the frame, so that we can like outline this guy, okay? And just get our little skeleton back. All around it. Okay, and then if we go and put that back to lighten, that one actually is normal. The frame one is normal, but the little skeleton one should be set to lighten. It's starting to stand out, but not completely yet. Okay, so we need to go on the table now and do it on the table layer. There we go. I think. And then let's go on to the picture frame one. And kind of fix that a little bit around the edge. So we're on the picture frame layer here. And I think I might want to fix the table one just a little bit too, just around the edges here. So if we zoom in closely, we can look at this better. Just kind of going around this edges here. This is on the table layer. And I'm noticing that the skeleton the flowers here on the skeleton is kind of disappearing on there, on the edge of the frame. So let's see what we can. So we can kind of take that off on the frame a little bit. I'm going to go in with a smaller brush Just kind of go around it with a smaller brush. And then let's go over here and fix the table a little bit here on the, okay. That looks pretty good. Now we can see all our objects on the table. So this is how we're going to add our objects. Okay. And we may want to adjust opacity on some of these because they're looking a little bit too bright. So I'm going to kind of go through. Layer 6 is our little skeleton. Layer 5 is our frame. I'm going to just bring the opacity down a little bit. So layer 4 is our food. Bring that opacity down just a little bit. Our candle on the right, bring our opacity down just a little bit. And our candle on the left, bring the opacity down just a little bit. And then our table, bring the opacity down just a little bit. That looks a little bit better. It's starting to match everything. Okay, so this is how we add objects in and how we use layer masks to blend in those objects. Okay, so the next part is you can also find doodles in Google by going to Google Images and doing a search. So for example, let's say I want a Mexican banner and I do a search. We're going to come up with all different types of banners that you can save and use. So let's say you wanted this one right here, but you do need to make sure that it's a JPEG. So if I click on and do a image, save image as, it needs to be a JPEG, and this one is not. So I'd have to cancel that one. And I would just kind of look through these different banners. Let's go over here to more. To tools, and we can do type. We could do size. We could do maybe large. Let's see, type, any type. Okay. And then we can look at, okay, so let's look at this one here. And let's do a right click on that and save image as. And that is a JPEG, so that would work. Okay. Now, the good thing is that I did save a bunch of files for you, so you don't have to do that for the practice, but I want you to know that you have this option. You can go and look for little graphics that you put in. You could put a Mexican banner Doodle or Doodle Mexican banner, and let's see what comes up. And you might get something different. Oh, we got some different doodles. Not necessarily a banner, but we got a bunch of different little doodles that you could incorporate into your project if you wanted to. Let's see, I'm going to do drawn Mexican banner, and let's see what I get. No, I just get the Mexican flag, which you could also incorporate as well. Let's see. So we'll just put in Mexican banner, and we get lots of different options here. Let's see here. If I click on that and save image as, that is a JPEG. That would work as well. How about this one? Save image as. Save as. It's not a JPEG. The good thing is that I already got some saved for you guys, okay? But I want you to know about this so that in the future you can, for your project, you can look for images on the internet as well, okay? So let's go ahead and add in our Mexican banner. So go to File, Open. And again, these are going to be Google images, and these are some of the different ones I saved that you can use. I'm going to go ahead and select this one here. I'm going to open it up, and I'm going to invert this. I'm going to go to Image, adjustments, invert, because I want a black background. Then I'm going to go in and I'm going to use my lasso tool right here, okay? And I'm just going to draw around it. And I'm going to go edit, copy, and I'm going to come back over here and go edit, paste. Now I'm going to make sure that I have it right above layer 6. Edit, paste, and I'm going to move it. I'm going to turn off my black and white layer so I can kind of see what I'm doing. I'm going to resize it. I'm going to kind of have it hanging here like this by the flowers. And then I'm going to change, I'm going to go ahead and put that in, check mark that in. I'm going to change the blending mode to lighten, and then I'm going to turn my black and white layer back on. Now I'm thinking that I want to actually make my black and white layer a little bit, no, I'm going to keep it black and white. I might eventually bring my opacity down a little bit on my black and white layer so I can see a little bit of color coming through. Okay. So what I want to do right now is I want to make sure that that banner is showing up. So I'm going to double check. I'm going to come over here to my Aztec flower and I'm going to click on my layer mask because that's what is behind my banner right now, right? So I'm going to go in with a brush and I'm going to make my brush a little bigger. And then I'm just going to remove, make sure it's black over white. I'm just going to remove some of that flower in the background so that my banner shows up here. Okay. So there's my black and white layer. I'm going to put this at 100% so we can see how this is going to look. Oops. Undo. And we can see there that on that layer mask, that little banner section. Okay. And then I'm going to do Control V again, and I'm going to paste this in again. And I'm going to move this up, and I'm going to make sure that, actually I'm going to delete this layer, and I'm going to move back up here to layer 7. I'm going to go edit, paste, and move that up again, and I'm going to rotate it. I'm noticing that part of my banner is kind of dark. So I'm going to look at my original image. I'm going to close this out. Okay. Make these a little bit bigger and kind of rotate it so that it's kind of hanging. I'm going to check mark that in, and I'm going to change that to lighten. And I'm going to go back over here on my background with the flowers, with the Aztec Mayan, the Aztec flowers, and I'm just going to go in and remove this so that my banner stands out against the flowers. And then I'm going to go back up to the top and just make sure that this is really where I want to place these, okay? And then I'm going to do a Control V, and I think what I might do is actually delete that. I'm going to reverse that, edit, unpaste. And I'm going to lighten these banners a little bit. So I'm going to go to layer 7, and I'm going to go up to image adjustments, and I'm just going to go to levels, and I'm just going to lighten them up a little bit. Yeah, so that they stand out a little more. Some of these are getting lost because they're just dark for some reason. Okay, and then I'm going to do the same thing with layer 8. image adjustments, levels. Just going to lighten those up a little bit. Okay. And then I'm going to look and see about maybe selecting another section this time. I'm going to go ahead and use my deselect here and maybe select another part of the banner, maybe this one here. Oops. Make sure you get all around it. Okay. Edit, copy, and then edit, paste. And I'm going to move it kind of here. I want to make it larger. I'm going to kind of put it in between the middle of these here. I'm going to put lighten, and then I'm going to move it down a little bit, and I'm going to bring it up. I'm going to bring it up here. I like it better there. And then I'm going to check mark that in. I'm going to go to image adjustments, levels, and make that a little bit lighter. Okay. And I'm going to do Control V and paste it again a fourth time. Make it a little bigger, kind of rotate it, kind of definitely bigger. And I'm going to check mark that in, go to lighten, and I'm going to lighten that up just a little bit. Okay, so I'm going to go back down here. Actually, I'm going to move this up just a little bit. Okay. And then I'm going to go back down to my Aztec background so that I can start to blend these in a little bit. You can start to see it develop on the layer mask right here on the right, making sure they're going behind the flower, like the flower, make sure the flowers are behind the banners. You want to make sure that the flowers are behind the banners. Okay. All right, so I'm going to go to File, Save. Okay, and now our last thing that we're going to be adding are brushes. So I'm going to be showing you how to do that. Final step for this project is basically we are going to be using also some brush options. Okay, so to do that, you are going to want to make sure you are on brush tool. Okay, B for brush tool. And we're going to come up here to our brushes. We're going to go to this little gear symbol, and we're going to go down to import brushes. Now we're going to go into your drive where you saved all your resources. Doodle practice image, Mayan brushes. We're going to click on Mayan brushes and we're going to load. Okay, so now if we come down here to the very bottom, you're going to see Mayan brushes as an option. If you open that folder and you scroll down, you're going to see all these like lots of different Mayan brushes. Okay, so I'm going to use this number 8. It's called Ethnic 8, and it kind of looks like a skull. It's pretty cool looking, and it kind of goes with the theme. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come over here to click on layer 10, and I'm going to put a plus here, and I'm going to put in a brand new layer. Okay. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go and stamp this circular design inside all of these little flowers in the background. Okay. But I need to make my brush smaller. So I'm going to come down here and I'm going to see how big my brush needs to be. About, let's see. Oh, that's a little too small. I'm going to use the bracket key, and it's pretty dark. Is there like any way I can make that brighter? I'm going to zoom in really quick so you guys can see this. So I just put it right there. You see that? That's pretty dark. I'm going to move that down a little bit. And I'm going to see if I can go to image adjustments, levels, if I can just kind of make that a little brighter. Not really. Okay. Maybe it's because of my opacity. Let me go back to my brush. Nope, my opacity is 100%. I'm going to check to see, does it look like I can adjust hardness on this? Okay. So let's back out again. And what I'm going to do to make this maybe stand out a little better is I'm going to add another layer. I'm going to put that above, and then I'm going to underneath it on layer 12. I'm going to try putting in kind of like a circle shape. So let's go back to my regular brushes, hard round, and I'm going to put like a black circle shape there. Let's get rid of this. Let's try that again. So this is 11. I'm going to put a new kind of circle shape underneath it. That did help a bit to make it stand out a little more. And so that's where I'll do my little circle shapes to make it stand out. And then 11 is where I'll do my stamps. Okay, so let's go around and put in my little circles first on my flowers. I'm going to make my little flowers bigger here. Make the black center just a little bit bigger on my flowers. Okay. Yep. And I'm going to fix that on the banner later. There. I already did it there. And I'm going to do it a little smaller here. Okay. I'm just going to back out, Control minus, or I can also use this just to kind of see how it looks. Okay, so that's 12. All right, so I've added a much bigger circle. And now I'm going to go to my 11, and I'm going to go back to my Mayan brush, number 8. Okay, and I'm going to make a much smaller brush. All right, so that's going on a number 11. I don't know why it's not stamping here. Normal, 100%, 100%, 100% opacity, normal. Got the brush selected that I want. There we go. Oh, I know why. Okay, edit, undo. It's because I don't have the right color. So I want white. I want pure white, pure white. As white as possible. And let's change my brush size by controlling my bracket key to make it a little smaller. Keep going down. on my bracket key right about there, and I'm going to stamp that in here, stamp that in. I'm just going to keep stamping it. I'm going to stamp it there as well. I don't like that one, so I'm going to edit, undo, bring it a little lower. Going to stamp it there. I'm going to make this one a little bit smaller. I'm going to stamp it there, there. Oops, edit, undo. I don't like that one. And right there. Perfect. Okay, so now I need to go on my banner layers, which is 10. I'm going to put a layer mask on that, and I'm going to go in on with my brush tool, go back up here to my hard round brush, and I'm going to make it a little bit. I'm going to just get rid of, whoops, edit, undo. Okay, make sure I'm on my actual layer mask here, and I'm going to, nope, edit, undo. So I'm just going to leave it there because what's happening is it's taking out too much of the banner. So I'm just going to leave those there overlapping. That's fine. Okay, so I want to do one more thing. I'm going to go up here. I'm going to add in one more layer, and I'm going to add a big black circle right here in the middle of the hand. So let's go ahead and stamp in that big black circle right there. Okay, and then I'm going to go in and I'm going to put in my Mayan brush 8, and I'm going to make sure it's white over black, and going to go use my bracket key to make my brush smaller so it fits right in that circle. Let's see, right there, and I'm going to stamp that right in. There we go. So that stands out. I don't know if the flow, actually changing the flow helped. So I'm going to undo this and edit, undo brush. And by having the flow at 100%, it definitely helped to make that a little darker. Okay, so then that is ready. And now I've added a brush, which really, you can add in some cool brushes, especially look at that if I want to add in some more designs somewhere else. So we've got the Firefly designs, we've got the Google designs with the banners, we've got the stamping brush tools that will add in some cool designs. And let's just back out just a little bit on our navigator so we can kind of see the whole image. And this is the second version that I've made of this image, okay? This was the first version that I made right here. There you go. So you guys are going to have some opportunities to play with this. Here's my version 1, here's my version 2, and you're going to have some opportunities to play with this and create your own practice project. Now, it's very important that you use all of these elements of Google Images, the stamps, as well as the Firefly generated images.